lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and back with me again, guest host Morgan Heron of Frankie Boy Monster. If you're not familiar with his work, please search on the channel. I got an Indie Creator Spotlight with him, and we have a creator commentary where we go through his book as well.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Ryan.
Oh yeah, dude. Today we're gonna be I let Morgan pick a book that he would want to talk about, and I should have guessed it was going to be a Hellboy title, but I'm not mad at that. I love Hellboy, one of my favorite characters in comics.
For
So
sure.
we're talking The Wolves of St. August. This obviously is from the Hellboy Library Edition, which is just an absolute beautiful book. If you have not read it this way, I highly recommend getting it in this version. But interesting, why did you pick this particular story?
Yeah, so when I was first getting into Hellboy my sophomore year of high school, I did like Seed of Destruction, and I know John Bird did do scripting, and Mike Mignola was the storyteller, and he created the IP. And I did enjoy it. It felt like there was a lot of like groundwork, there was a lot of establishing and stuff like that, which is not a problem, but I don't know, it just felt overly wordy at some points. Though I reread it now, and it's like I'm not as bored by it. In fact, I actually find it way more exciting now. But still, like once Mignola takes over, it's so well thought out, very atmospheric. The dialogue is even better. I have to say, like, I mean, I don't want to say like he's better than John Bird, but like it's the dialogue feels a little bit more natural. The exposition
It's because it's his stuff.
It's different, yeah. And I mean, he understands the characters more than John Byrne did.
Right.
I mean, John Byrne did his best, but like he was the training wheels, and then once he did the Wolves of St. August, the training wheels came off. And I know Mignola in interviews said that like his head was on fire, like he was terrified about doing it, but like I don't see it in this story. Maybe I see like I feel like he's overcompensating with words in some parts, but overall he does a great job at in the Wolves of St. August taking over writing duties.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way a little bit about Seed of Destruction, but I mean, I also came to it at like, it had already been out for a while. I think it was just prior to when the movie came out that I had finally read Hellboy.
Yeah.
So I think I had to have been like, I don't know. I was in high school. I can't remember the exact age I was, but like
but he needed to get a start, and he got a start.
Yeah, especially because he hadn't written comics yet. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, you pick a creator that's been writing it for a long time. Fantastic Four, he worked on X-Men, She-Hulk. Like John Byrne had been around, so obviously he went with a veteran. But at the end of the day, who better to write a creator-owned character than the creator, right?
Yeah,
like he gave the plot, but he didn't script it, and so like the voice even feels different out of Hellboy's mouth when you read it from Mignola's script. It's just
because he said Hellboy like mannerisms based off of his more working class dad, and it's pretty cool seeing reading it with that lens. It's a lot more funny and relatable, and Hellboy's even more relatable for that sense.
Yeah, and I love these like old folk tales and lore and stuff like that. We're in this like small Eastern European town called Griart. We come up and like there's this church has been run down, it's overgrown with plants. We meet this priest, and you already know, dude, when you see this guy, that there's something up with him. You don't need to see just the subtleness of the coloring of his skin lets you know that there's something behind him.
Talk about an old soul.
Yeah. And he's talking to the priest, and he's like, God has no place here. And he leads him down into this crypt. This is where you get the reveal, dude. This guy gets fucking angry. He's talking about it, but I love the way the coffin opens and you just see the skeleton of a fucking werewolf. It's awesome.
And then we pan over. Yeah, and then we pan over to the priest pulling out the cross, saying, "Lord, have mercy." And then the cross is dropped in red, and then a wolf.
Dude,
a wolf
so
that's
cinematic. It's so cinematic, dude. His layouts, the way he paces his story, it just has like. I can't compare him to anybody else. Like like when I try to, I'm like, okay, who? I mean, I can see obviously some influences made more in his early stuff, but at this point, to me, it's like
he's his own guy.
This is just him. There is nobody that's really that I can pick out. Now, maybe he would tell me something different if I were to ask him, like, oh, is this all you, or like, were you picking from something? Like maybe he is, but the fact that we can't tell as a reader speaks to like the talent that he is.
And most people that try to emulate his style only emulate the surface elements. They never think to zoom in on a fly or zoom in on certain things, like or pan over to a deer head on the wall. It
Right.
adds to the
Or
atmosphere,
like this,
you know.
right? Like just the
Yeah,
freaking wall with
just
the
that
window
window.
with
But it's
and then
beautiful,
it
and it
closes in.
adds,
Yeah.
yeah, and it adds to like the scary nature, or like the it adds an ominousness to the story. Yeah.
Right. And I like
Yeah,
that,
and
Hellboy's still new at this time, right?
mhm.
So, he's mentioning like all these past cases, India in 57, New Guinea in
Yeah.
59, India again in 82, because he's talking about his relationship with this priest, that he's known for
Yeah,
such
and
a
this
long
is her
time.
first time on the field. And this is
Yeah.
her first time on the field, and that's established. Like, she's a bookworm, which, I there's a lot of people that, they do a lot of studying, and they think they're prepared for a case, but there's a difference between, textbook reading and actual, ground experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's only two artists that like to me are obviously Mignola is the best Hellboy artist.
Yeah.
But then Bermejo or no, Duncan
Duncan Fegredo?
Fegredo
Yeah.
is like to me the only other artist that can draw Hellboy the way I think Hellboy should be drawn. And not to
Yeah.
say these other artists don't do a good job. They do.
Yeah.
But there's just something about it. He like is able to like really pull from Mignola, but then also like have his little flourishes as well.
Yeah.
And
I struggle myself to draw a good Hellboy, which every single artist that talks about trying to draw Hellboy says you
yeah,
have to kind of lean into Mignola's style to get it.
you have
One
to,
of my
dude.
favorite Hellboy artists that isn't Mignola at the moment is Mark Laszlo.
Okay.
He's really good at drawing the planes of his face, but he has this wonderful, like, he has this sense of value that's not quite like Mignola, because like he puts a lot of gray on the page and black, and that's like a different take on Mignola, on like and he's on the record for like saying that like Mignola is a big influence on him. I actually got to meet him at Heroes Con last year.
Oh, that's
He was
awesome,
really he
dude.
was really nice. I got to look at his portfolio book. Like, I think he draws a darn good Hellboy too, and I'll be picking up that free comic book day issue of his.
Oh hell yeah. I
Yeah.
love, Kate Corrigan as a character too. And I like to like what happened? Why did they get called here? The fucking entire town was murdered. Like
Yeah.
that's nuts, dude. Like an entire town is gone and they just want to,
Yeah.
they're just
In
gonna talk
page
about
one,
bulldozing it.
yeah, in page one, we were introduced to some of those town people, and like that old lady was like, "Oh, something bad's gonna happen. I can
Yeah.
just feel it in my bones."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then Hellboy pan over to Jesus, the Jesus statue, and then Hellboy goes, "I want to take a swing of whatever did this."
This is
Like,
fucking great, dude,
anyone else
too.
that writes that, it would come off as cheesy, but like it just fits, because also like the words, like I think the only bad comics are when the words don't match the drawing that's coming out of it.
Sure. Yeah,
Like
that's a good call out, yeah.
the dialogue fits with like that arch in that top right panel, that
Right here.
like I said, that hunch, yeah, that body language with what's being said, it sold. Like, I'm sold. I'm in.
Yeah. And I love
Body
too, like
language is
this
very
is where we
important.
learn, right? It's St. August. So now we're
Yeah.
starting to feel like we're starting to like learn about what this town really is. And just her saying it, the Wolves of St. August. There it is.
Yeah.
There's the hook. Now we know
And
that
that's
there's
not
something.
overly yeah, that's
Yeah.
not overly expositional till she kind of gets into the details of it, but that's what this next part is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome, dude. I love it. She's
Yeah.
like, I got something for you. This town has an ugly little secret.
And also, here's some color theory 101. So like in the town, it's mostly like this blue and browns and reds, and of course brown is a warm color.
Mm-hmm.
You can take oranges and reds and make brown. And this flashback sequence of the Wolves of St. Augustine is green, and on the color wheel, green is the complement of red, meaning they're opposites on the color wheel,
Interesting.
they um which is why they contrast so well. And
Okay.
also, when you're painting, in order to make a more natural green, you take red, because it's green's complement, to dullien it, and you get a more foresty green. And then you could add purples to darken it, and then yellows to lighten it up. And that's some
Very
just a color
interesting.
theory
Yeah,
for that.
I
And
did
so
not know that.
in comics, color theory adds to the storytelling. So like by using red's complement, which is Hellboy's color, it sells us on the flashback subtly, but it's there.
I really dig this too, because like as they're establishing what's going on, like just like obviously he pulls from real history or real stories, real folklore, which I think is one of the most brilliant things about Hellboy, because like you can go back and then read these real stories that exist out in
Yeah.
the world. But like them taking the bell tower down to hide their past, they changed the name, and now he's like he sees the blood. I love that. The finger
Yeah.
just sticking there with the blood droplets, and how he's like, it's not too old. 9 days would be just about right. Little
Yeah, and I
detective
love
work in there.
yeah, and I also love, like, even though they're on the job, they do, like they kinda rip on each other, kinda like an
Oh, it's
episode of
awesome.
X-Files, where she's like, "What the heck is that? Is that a gun?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get modern." "Yeah, but you can't hit anything." "I'm getting better,"
Yeah,
It's really good. It's
it's
really good.
awesome, dude. And then
It's
this,
really
be
good.
careful, the floor's not too stable. She's like, is that a crack about my weight? And then literally
Ah!
crack.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, so
So,
good. Like, that's better than any Alan Moore transition.
oh, dude. And then the negative space, the way it plays with the black border of the page. Oh my
Yeah.
God, dude. I fucking love that. It just
Which black
adds.
borders, like a lot of professionals say never do black borders because it can get dicey and like in a Mignola style is very black heavy. So like there's a lot of room to mess that up,
Yeah,
which I think is why he steps away from doing black borders. That and also it's much more time to fill up with a brush.
for sure. Yeah. I love this dead space, and Kate's just floating down, and then she lands and
Yeah.
she's meets this ghost.
And I mean, I don't mean to sound the trumpet of creator-owned comics, but like in a Marvel pamphlet, it's hard to get this atmospheric and open. Like manga does it well, and like a lot of people that do creator-owned comics are trying to take advantage of pacing because if you're doing creator-owned stuff, you have a stake in the print bill, so you
Mhm.
can, and you're working with a publisher who's probably not holding you too much to a page count.
Yeah,
Sometimes it just depends on the deal. Like Eli doesn't hold me to a page count particularly, as long as it's within like the 20 to like 30 range. Sometimes like this issue is going to be like the thing I'm working on, like it's 30, yeah, it's 30 pages of story, and then there's going to be around the ballpark of like 6 to 8 pinups.
oh wow,
But
okay.
yeah, like yeah, you should like a lot of people like in the indie comic space or like creator owned comic space talk about like to take advantage of like pacing it. You're not bound by like a 23 page pamphlet with
Exactly.
ads,
Well, yeah, this
like
this book alone, like with, in this collection is just under 40, I think.
yeah,
Right? So
yeah.
like obviously it was I'm assuming probably a 48 pager, but like yeah, how many stories do they let you do like at Marvel? Not much,
Yeah.
and that's why he's able to do it.
I
Um
just love how like after the exposition is established, like a Hellboy story then has so much more room to breathe with the
yes.
visuals.
And I
It's so
love
good.
this too, the reveal that she's like one of the werewolves. And then if you
Yeah.
recognize the dress, that was the
That was
skeleton
the
that we
girl.
saw in the coffin, dude.
Yeah,
And
and
then
like
then
yeah.
him just emerging from the shadows, and she's just distraught because, like you said, it's her first job like out in the field. And she's
Yeah.
like, it was my first ghost. He's like, oh, rough way to start.
Yeah, and I think a lot of creators would be afraid to do something like this because it could get lost. But I was reading this as like a 16-year-old kid still trying to learn how to read comics. And like that, I didn't have any confusion at all reading that.
Yeah.
Really, really good, really atmospheric, and it adds to like the tenseness of it because it just made me like I remember reading and going, "Oh, what's going to happen next?" Which I think is the best thing you can hope for when you're making a comic.
Yeah.
And then a silhouette of a church and the birds surrounding it.
Hmm.
It's getting closer to sundown, and then the bottom panel is nighttime.
Yeah, I like that, but I really love this too, the silhouette of
Yeah,
the werewolf. And then as they
How-
chase, they see there's
yeah,
there's more.
yeah, and then like that middle panel of like the werewolf space, the
Yeah.
silhouette then comes into the light,
I
but
love
then
the
there's
blue
more.
eyes too.
Yeah, and Hellboy shines even brighter because of and it's not quite gray. It leans a little turquoise, which is again like turquoise kind of leans cool. It leans
Hmm.
green, which again is the complement of red. So like the storytelling in color is there, which I tell people all the time. Like if you want to make comics, like don't disregard color. If you're gonna pay a print bill for colored ink, don't waste that colored ink.
Yeah.
Think about the color.
I also really dig how much he pops off the page, because he's
Yeah,
the only like super bright color. The rest of it's all very muted, you know?
yeah.
And finally, he's trying to like calm her down, right? Because like there's a lot of weird shit going on. She's never experienced any of this stuff. And she makes that comment like, it's different when you read about it. He's like, just, catch your breath. You're gonna be fine. And
Yeah.
then we see the priest and the look of shock at Hellboy's face.
Yeah, because he was ripped to pieces earlier, but here he is in front of us. But then
Yeah.
that little scar across his chest then leads us into this as he
This is
fades
so
away into
fucking
nothing.
awesome.
It's just his shade or his ghost,
Yeah.
help me,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. Love it. Love it.
I really love too, like as
And
he's talking, like he realizes he's one of the Greniers, like the family they like we kind of glossed over it, but this family was cursed
yeah,
into turning to
because of the
werewolves.
actions of William Grenier, who we are now faced with.
Yeah. And this dude, oh my God, every time I've read this story, it's so unnerving watching him rip the skin on his face and then peel back the flesh.
Which I don't think any other like werewolf movie or stories done, but I might be wrong. Like that's like
I
when I
haven't
read this, I
seen
was
it.
like, wow, that's a great take
And
on
then the
like a
teeth,
werewolf transformation. Like, it looks more painful. Yeah.
yeah, and then the teeth right here in the fucking stark black of the fur, dude, is
Yeah,
like
and
it's
in
awesome.
that crop with all of the blood is a perfect page turn as we get to this splash page.
Yeah.
Boom. Or half splash. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
dude.
And I mean the blood dripping from his fangs. I mean, like in the original art, that would just be like those fangs are just pure white.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's perfect how you can pair like you can choose like when you're working in black and white, you can choose what's negative space. And then when you pair it with color, it sings in a different way
Mm-hmm.
within the context
And
of
then
the
we
story.
we finally get what I love the most in a Hellboy comic, which is when he's beating the shit out of whoever he's going against, whatever monster, and you just get this massive
Yeah.
fucking punch.
Yeah, and it's like 2 to 3 panels and splash pages. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
it's and it gets very like more manga paced in that regard. I'm sure like Mignola's not looking at manga because I don't see him like being that kind of guy. But like it's very much that same idea of just opening and letting the action breathe.
No, this is awesome, dude. End of the road for you.
Only
And he's like,
beats.
Grenier's no more, only beasts. And you just see like Hellboy all slumped down, dude,
Yeah,
facing
and
off against this massive werewolf.
back to that Frazetta thing, like that splash page is a triangle composition. Like put your hands like this over it, and like that's a triangular like
Yeah.
Frazetta composition.
Oh, for sure, dude. This definitely looks like it would be a Frazetta piece.
Yeah, it'd be a wonderful painting. Which he's done paintings of the Universal monsters, which is pretty cool. And here we go.
I just love his dialogue too. His dialogue reads different with Mignola writing it than it did with John Byrne. Like, I don't care
I
if you're a
don't care if
goddamn
you're a
fish,
fish.
you're going down. It's
Yeah, it's so good. You hear me?
and
And
that's
then
another thing that I love
yeah,
Mignola does. Like Hellboy fucking yeah, he wins most of the time, but he gets
he
like
gets tossed around.
yeah, dude, he gets tossed around, he gets beat up, you'll see him bleeding, you'll see him, with cuts on his face. Like he's
No,
not invincible.
yeah. Yeah, sometimes you think like he's gonna die, but he come through the clutch. And like I said, back to that to the cross cutting of like other images to add to the mood of the pasting. Like that bottom panel from earlier is like I believe Mother Mary holding yeah, Mary holding Jesus
Yeah,
as he's about to die, which is perfect because like that kind of like that imagery alone like makes you think like Hellboy might die too. If you think
right.
about it. Which is weird to hear like Mignola act like he's like he'll be very self-deprecating where he's just like, oh, I'm just trying to like string along stuff I want to draw, but like everything he draws is with a purpose. So I
Of
can't really
course.
imagine him just being like, oh, I'm just drawing stuff to draw stuff. Like there's purpose with everything he draws,
I love these
which is what
pages right here too.
I try to be.
Hellboy's just flying through the air, gets thrown again, and fucking werewolf throws him again. He just it's getting thrown
Yeah,
everywhere,
to the
dude.
wall. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Have you read the Bram Stoker's Dracula adaptation Mignola drew with
I
Roy
haven't
Thomas
read that
writing?
one. I gotta pick that up.
I got a paperback of it. It's published by IDW. Funny enough, I
Really?
got the
I didn't
paperback.
even know they put that out. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's colored. It's colored by Mark Chiarello. In fact, that's my favorite. It's one of my favorite like coloring jobs on Mignola. I actually really love it when Mark Chiarello colors Mignola, but
He's great, but I think Dave
he
Stewart
couldn't stick
for
around.
me.
He had other things. He was
Yeah,
a
Dave Stewart's
DC
my favorite
editor.
colorist on Hellboy.
Yeah, and I mean, he kind of took what Chiarello and some of these earlier guys were doing and kind of streamlined the
Yeah.
process.
Chiarello's like what a gift to the industry, dude. I had a chance to interview him. We talked about like a lot of his work at
Ooh.
fucking, DC. Like he did the Wednesday comics. Like he was like bringing all those cool concepts. He did like the black. He's the one that did Batman Black and White.
Solo,
Like
yeah.
so Solo. Yeah, dude. He did so many great things. What a great conversation that was too.
Oh man, I'd love to
Yeah,
meet him someday.
yeah. He was really cool,
Oh, and now our werewolf is bleeding as
dude. His fucking eye right here.
Hellboy through the statue head, which has a little bit of blood on it on that zoom at the
Yeah.
werewolf's eye, and then he gets across. Finally has him on the ropes
And then
when he
we
takes him
find out that
down.
he didn't kill the people. He got his family to do it.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
dude.
that's just so harsh.
Yeah.
So
And then
harsh, yeah.
he's pissed, dude. He's like, "You killed my friend," and fucking
Yeah.
stabs him straight. Like, or he just keeps. Well, he doesn't stab him. He keeps whacking him, and you just see
And
like
yeah,
flesh ripping apart.
and he's hurting his own family.
Yeah.
Like they're cursed to stay there until he finally dies. I hope that hurt.
Oh, dude,
So
so
good.
good. Yeah.
So good. Yeah,
What
and
a
he
great
dies
image
next to
too.
the crucifix, right
Yep.
next to the crucifix. And it's funny, like the top panel leads into the second panel, but even if they weren't connected, it'd be a zoom, but it reads as both being a zoom and it being a trail in that perspective. It reads as both, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. No,
I don't know
it's
if he
a
did that on purpose, but like it reads as both, which is really, really hard to do.
yeah. He's fucking master, dude. I love it,
Yeah.
and I love how it ends. Wow, that was something.
Yeah, he fades
It's
away into bones,
yeah.
the atmosphere of the leaves falling, the
Yeah.
the the ghosts of the other wolves are finally free. I assume, I would hope.
Hmm.
Yeah. The follow-up investigation, a bureau team of physical and trance mediums failed to detect any trace of Father Edward Kelly or the assorted Greniers in or near the Chateau Grenier. On May 29th, 1994, Dr. Izar Hoffman officially declared the site clear. Yeah, so
And now it just
they're free.
remains uninhabited. So it didn't get demolished like they had said alluded to earlier. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
and I
great,
love
dude.
the birds. I love the
Yeah.
birds that appear throughout the issue too, that add a little bit of quietness and
Yeah.
serenity. Yeah,
Yeah, this is Hellboy's one of my favorite creations in comic books. I always love, talking some old Hellboy. So anytime you want to
yeah,
come back and talk some Hellboy with me, I'm always down. It was been a blast
for
going
sure.
through this with you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna drop where you can find Morgan's stuff and pick up some of his comic work as well. And go check out some of the rest of the stuff on the channel. Hit that subscribe button so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.